Hello and welcome back to the podcast. So, if you want to improve your social media game and turn your social media into a lead generating machine, I've got the main man on the podcast today. James Walker, thank you for coming on. So, talk us through a little bit of your background. How does one become a social media guru for estate agency marketing?
That's a very good question, Chris. First of all, thanks for having me on. It's quite a niche thing to become, I guess. So for me, it started in 2017. I was still in college, and I had some part-time sales jobs and stuff. But I wanted an income source that I was in control of too. I thought that'd be important, probably long term. So I started at the time. It was a trend to do a lot of social media marketing. For me, it was Instagram and Instagram growth and that kind of thing. And at the time, it was a case of I could go to uni and do all that stuff, where my friends were going, etc., or I could start a business because I had no risk and no overhead. And at the time, it was also a trend to have a local social media marketing agency, which is probably back in 2018 now. And that sounds great in principle, but when you do go out into the cold, harsh world of business, it's very difficult, and people don't already know, like, and trust you. So I was running around with some sales skills, some social media marketing skills to local businesses, but I really wasn't confident in what I was selling, and I probably wasn't confident sat in a restaurant with a business owner that I'd never met before. And to be honest with you, I don't think they were either in that situation to be fair. So what a lot of people didn't have, I noticed, I got a few clients, what a lot of people didn't have is an urgency for marketing. And also, I didn't have the ability to create urgency through sales either. I wasn't that much of a salesperson at the time. I had some sales skills, but not that many. So what I did notice was that I was involved in marketing and sales. And as a local business that is involved in marketing and sales and always needs new leads, which is estate agents. Now, everybody always needs new customers, but none so much as estate agents. Once you've sold a property and completed on it, you need another one to sell. So that was when I niched down with estate agents. But I tell you now, cold calling estate agents, pressing one for sales and two for lettings 100 times a day is a nightmare. So that's when I used my brand building abilities, went on LinkedIn and Facebook, connected with estate agents, and fast forward a few years, here we are.
So, why should agents focus their time on social media? Because there's very much a divide, I would say, out there in sort of the world of estate agency. There's ones that are like, yeah, I know I should do it, but I don't do it, sort of thing. And there's ones that are like religious, they do it every single day. So I had a video call with a potential new client earlier today. They hadn't upgraded their Instagram page or Facebook page in the last year. And I was like, okay, well, that's a bit of a flag for anybody investigating your business. So why should agents be focusing their time and sort of dragging themselves up to, whether they want to or not, investing in their social media?
Because that's where it's been at for years now. It's where it's at right now, where everybody's attention is what I'm talking about there, and then where it will be at for years to come. And also, when you think of every other piece of marketing you could do for your estate agency, whether that's direct mail and getting direct into those homes, and of course, getting something in front of those homeowners that are potentially looking to sell, people on the market, people in general, or anybody looking at the polls as well, any potential buyers, you can reach all these people and have all these benefits off the back of using social media correctly, all in one place. So it makes it very easy to get all the benefits of everything else you could be doing, but there's only one cost to it.
I think it's the thing, isn't it, that I say we, the world takes for granted that social media is free. Now, I appreciate that obviously, if it's free, you are the product and we get sold advertising, all this sort of stuff. But it is pretty amazing that, for free of charge, we can go onto a website and contact pretty much anybody in the world and can get in front of millions of people just by putting some videos online, sort of thing. So I think people kind of don't, take that for granted, the fact that aspect is there. So what do you see as some of the biggest mistakes that agents make when they kind of try and generate leads and sort of interest on their social media?
I think some of the mistakes that they make is copying everybody else. So oftentimes I've heard people say it's a copy paste industry. It very much is. Like, there's oftentimes services or market things that crop up. It's like a one trick pony. But maybe it works one time, but then as soon as everybody else is doing it, it depletes the quality of it. For example, everybody's putting the same stuff out there on social media. Everybody's running the same instant valuation campaigns. People have been running instant valuation campaigns with Facebook ads for like 10 years. And in my opinion, they never worked that well 10 years ago. Now everybody's doing it and everybody's being seen with the same stuff over and over again. You're only putting off people, the quality leads, they get swallowed up by the first person to do it. And the rest of them, you've got to settle for whatever comes through, and the lead quality gets poorer and poorer the more and more agents do this and put more money behind it. That's probably a big mistake that people make, is just copying what's out there and not being authentic with their brand and their own content.
But is there so I can talk from experience here, and I don't know the answer to this question, but So I have two sort of types of content that I do. One is sort of video content of me, and it's generally sort of tips and advice and do this instead of doing that sort of thing. And that does okay in the grand scheme of things. But I also then if I see a trend in the sort of social world and everyone's doing this video, I think to myself, okay, I can make that video sort of unique for the estate agency world and kind of do that same sort of thing. It will automatically get a lot more views on that sort of video content because kind of I don't know the algorithm sort of signed it off as being quite a funny video already because you basically kind of not nicked the idea, but you kind of like developed it for yourself, let's say. But also, I suppose there's a balance between views for views sake. So, for example, if I had a video tomorrow that got 100,000 views, for example, okay, well, how many of those are self-employed estate agents? 2%. The rest of it is sort of a very high sort of vanity number. So, what's the balance between sort of views versus sort of reward? Because I think the views are obviously good for sort of your bigging yourself up and give yourself a bit of a big head. But ultimately, you're doing it because you want to get business off the back of it. So what's the balance there?
So I guess in terms of you mentioned the content you've seen within social media marketing, I've always been viewing a lot of that for a long time. That's initially where I started, and then applying those trends back to my own content, and then also I can help my estate agent clients apply those trends to their audience. But the thing that's missing with that stuff in a estate agency is that overall it's quite a closed off industry. And it's kind of like I used to call it the UK estate agency industry box because I'm an outsider to the industry. I'm within it now, but I come from within a estate agency. So everybody kind of copies each other and goes off their own ideas or whatever comes up from within the space. I'm not saying there's not good stuff out there. There is. But in terms of social media and online marketing, the trends that are there and the things that work there, that having been in that world, if you can't point to the evidence that says you're ahead of the curve, you can almost rest assured that you're behind it. But estate agency marketing doesn't move forward at that pace. That's why everybody kind of copies each other and stays around doing the same things. So that's, I guess, what I'd say on that topic. But then in terms of views and then obviously vanity metrics, I'd say, yeah, you can do some stuff that's going to get a lot of views. I'd say always keep it local and always just advertise it locally if you're in a state. If you work in Harrow, for example, and that's your neighbourhood, and sure, some buyers are going to come from within London to the parts of Greater London and Northwest London and what have you. But there's no point posting a video and trying to get 1 million views on it because they're going to be from all parts of London and the surrounding areas and potentially nationwide. With the stages, I don't think there's that much of a problem with the views as such because if you're just advertising it locally with paid ads or in local Facebook groups, the only people that are going to be seeing it are local people. So if you get 10,000 views on a video, you've reached a lot of local people. You've gained kind of local virality, if you like. Whereas I don't think estate agents kind of have the same problem as maybe business consultants and the marketers online.
So is it worth sort of looking outside of sort of the bubble of a state agency, which I appreciate, especially when you're on Instagram and LinkedIn, you follow other estate agents, it's very easy to be kind of caught in that cycle of like, this is the world and this is what it is sort of thing. Is it more fortuitous to kind of look outside of that bubble and go, actually, these guys are doing this in sort of this sector and it's working really well. We can kind of borrow that for our industry as well.
100%. 100%. I think always. Whenever I've done that and applied it back to a state agency, it's always works better than what I've taken from within a state agency that already seems to be going around within the industry for marketing. Because this is the thing again with social media and online marketing is where the most money is spent in terms of marketing, in terms of trends, in terms of content creation, in terms of tech as well. That's where the most money is spent and the most money is lost. So it's really important for a lot of people there spending that money and working in those spaces to get that right. And if you can just see what they're doing for social media and see what's working for their audience, you can rest assured that is almost a guaranteed win, whatever industry you're in, if you can apply it back.
So talk to me, let's focus on Instagram, for example. I suppose this is across all social media. Talk to me versus sort of static images versus reels, aka videos. Where should agents be focusing their time? Should it be a divide? Should they be going, right, I'm like Mr. Reel and I'm going for it sort of thing? Should I be on Mrs. Picture and that's all I do? Where kind of should be setting the line on that side of things?
I say Instagram focus on 3 types of content. So Reels, which is the short form portrait videos. One rule for Reels is keep them between 30 and 90 seconds. That is the Instagram actually just released, funnily enough, some guidelines for what works best on their platform. Keep it between 30 and 90 seconds. So you can do a property tour, a walkthrough tour. They work very, very well. I know we're going to talk about property Reels a bit later on. But if you can speed it up to within the 90-second limit, but also make it longer than 30 seconds, that's probably the perfect length of video reel to get the most views on that piece of content. The next thing isn't just still images. I wouldn't post still images at all on Instagram. What I would do instead is use carousels. So you've got when you swipe through and it's almost like a presentation style content and one leads into the other one. That stuff works very well. And you can use that with your reviews. You can use that with what I call story of the sale with my clients. I always get them made up a carousel when they've just sold a property, talking about, was it on the market with another estate agent for 6 months? Well, you just sold it in 2 weeks. You did an open house, you had social media videos around it, you got the stuff on Rightmove for it, and you had a new pricing strategy, and then these were some of the pitfalls, this is how you overcame them. And it tells that story. It's very engaging for people. What I'd also do with both those pieces of content on the feed is use trending audio. So whenever you post something on Instagram, there is always the little button to add audio. Click on that and it will say trending, and take anything you want from the trending sounds, because if that's what people are listening to while they're engaging with content on Instagram, it promotes your content more in the algorithm because it knows it maintains people's attention. So those on the feed is what I would do between static and reels. I'd use both types of content, but I wouldn't just post one static image. I'd have a carousel of images telling the story of how you did something. Then the next thing is, of course, the stories. The stories are just there to show off bits as you go about your day. 70% of the time people spend on Instagram is the stories at the top of it. So if you're doing a lot on your feed and you're getting X amount of leads a month, that's only 30% of what you could tap into if you're not using the story. So I'd say anything you post, fine, put it on your story. But then as you go about your day, when you're doing viewings, you've got a valuation at this place, you had a coffee stop at your favorite coffee shop, etc., put all that stuff on the story.
God, sorry, 70% of all action on Instagram is story. But I need to up my story game. I'm only doing about 3 stories a day at the moment, so I need to push that to the roof.
Yeah, well, this is it. Yeah, it is exactly. It is 70% of the time spent on Instagram is spent on stories. I think that was a start from last year. That may have changed now a little bit. But overall, stories is the most engaging thing. Reels, and then of course use your carousels too.
And there's different sort of attractions, let's call it. So with regard to Reels, it attracts lots of people that aren't your followers currently. I guess people go on the explore page and they kind of just flick through the video sort of thing endlessly, and your kind of content appears up in there. Because whenever I look at my analytics for my Instagram account, the amount of sort of followers versus non-followers on the reels is always a lot bigger with regard to non-followers than it is for followers. Whereas, the static post, for example, 90% of it is just normal followers and kind of 10% is people who kind of have stumbled across it. So I guess if you're trying to branch out and kind of get more people to go on your Instagram, I guess reels is probably the way forward.
It is, yeah. That's how you grow. But in terms of specifically who you reach, this is where you can go really deep on Instagram. It is very well optimized as a search engine now, even more so than Facebook is. So let's say you filmed a property reel and it got, there's plenty of agents out there that get millions of views on their reels, even though their market's only got like 10,000 houses in it, right? It's just the way they film the content. All of those people are not going to be in your market. And the thing is with that is that if you want to, yes, have the mix of, I guess back to the mix of views versus followers and people that could be clients, is if you use the caption and you word it very specifically, so it's got like the name of your area, the postcode, the name of the road, etc., and of course the type of property that it is, that's going to rank very high in terms of people's feed when they're in those areas, when they're searching for stuff in those areas. And a lot of your viewers are going to come from, yes, they may not be followers, but they're going to be local people that could be followers and could be sellers, landlords, and buyers too.
Cool. So you've segued me beautifully. So thank you very much for that. So how to we're building an audience on our social media platforms. You might have, I don't know, 10 followers, might have 10,000 followers. How can we make sure we build an audience that actually converts into valuations and instructions for the business? Because ultimately that's the goal, I would imagine.
Yeah, so I say keep it related to what you do in terms of properties that you're selling. The thing to build the audience and get the followers is always to promise them something exclusive. So the thing that works for me the fastest and the quickest is always followers to see properties in this area before they go on Rightmove. You can always deliver on that promise very easily, right? Because you've got your instructions readily available, you've got a phone, you can take pictures, you can film reels, videos, etc., right? That's the biggest promise. That's the exclusivity, and there's also the urgency. We need to be following this person so we don't miss out. Whether it's people that are just local people in general, they're interested in property content, 93% of people on Rightmove, scrolling down Rightmove and not looking to move home at all. It's just to do with, it's a big engagement, entertainment factor is having knows it was for sale in the area, and other areas too. So that's how I'd say get followers. To turn them into leads for your business, that's how you interact with them. So the story, for example, I saw a story from somebody actually that I did an Instagram audit of, and they were talking about mortgage rates and the fact that rates were coming down. Now that's good information on the story, but they're going to get thousands of people viewing their story every single time. What they could have done to get leads from those followers is put a poll in there which says, would you move home at this rate? Yes, no, or I'd move home if rates went below 4%. And then anybody that says no, ignore them, fine. Anybody that says yes, reach out to them because they're potential buyers for now or later this year and potential sellers. Anybody that says below 4%, reach out to them and let them know you're going to be in touch when you find rates below 4%. And just off the back of that, they could have had a dozen or so leads organically off the back of their following. So engaging things like that, information, or something out there to say, do you want to know about properties before they go on Rightmove, comment below. Get everybody comment the comments below, reach out to them, get them in your database, get them on your list, and start to send properties out to them via email or whatever, give them a call before they go on Rightmove. It's just giving people things essentially and starting to ask questions and getting their answers. And those people that are looking to move home, they're going to raise their hand in that way, and you can reach out to them and you can start to have those conversations and nurture them from there.
So it's effectively a bit like having a filter on your followers and people who interact with your criteria and what you're kind of posting, because you're putting out 100 people might view and you're kind of filtering out the ones that aren't interested in any way, shape or form, and you're left with 10 who are like, yeah, actually I might move in the next 6 months or then to kind of get rid of the sort of wheat and save the chaff sort of thing. Okay, I really like that. And do you think stories are the best way to do that, or is it posting on your main page as well, or where should we be posting to kind of do that filtering effectively?
I think it's a mix of both. So it depends on how big your following is, because if you've got a small following, you're not going to get any comments on your post if you say comment below. You're not going to get any response on your story if nobody's viewing it either. So I'd say start with trying to build that following, and then when you start to get a few hundred to 1,000 or more local followers, then you can start to do that kind of stuff.
So talk to me about retargeting. Now I'm going to throw myself under the bus here. I am very naive when it comes to retargeting. A lot of people say, yeah, I'll just run a retargeting ad sort of thing. And I'm like, oh yeah, got no idea. So talk me through, imagine I'm an idiot, easily done. Talk me through how retargeting works and how that can lead to more instructions for a business.
Right, sure. So retargeting on social media is simply the act of paying for, it's basically paid media to put it in front of people that are already engaging with you. So retargeting is basically there to keep your brand and message in front of people that are already engaging with you, whether they've been to your website, you've got someone Facebook's tracking code on there, they've followed you, they've viewed a video you put in a local group, all these people that have interacted with you online in some way, you can put your brand and message back in front of them with paid ads on Facebook and Instagram. That's what retargeting is there to do. It's there to keep your brand and message in front of those people, but also it's there to get you, in the way I use it, to get you on the phone with the next potential sellers, the low-hanging fruit that are already showing an interest in your property and home moving content.
I guess that's why when you go on any website like, I know, Vistaprint, for example, is following me around the internet at the moment. So I went on Vistaprint to look at some business cards.
Yeah, there you go.
Now it's literally stalking my life every 2 seconds. So do you want a tote bag that says the estate agent consultancy on it, sort of thing? So is that sort of thing. So I guess you need to have some sort of pixel installed on your website. And how do you track whether they viewed like one of your videos, for example, you posted on a group, or how much can you kind of track people on that side?
You can't track people down to the individual, or as a case of, you can make an audience of people that have watched this video, or you can make an audience of people that have been on this page on your website. So people that have, if you've got the pixel on there, the Facebook pixel, which your web developer can find the code and put in place for a lot of the stage, you're not going to do it yourself, you send it to your web developer. But if you put something on your website and also on the valuation page, and you just want to, like, a lot of people are going to go to your valuation page and they're not going to book a valuation with you. So you could create an audience of people that have been to your valuation page in the last 6 months, and you can start to run at them with a call to action to get a valuation, because that's what they were already looking at. You can say with certainty there's potential sellers in the audience. So we can't track it to the individual, but we can just group people together that's been on this part of your website, watch this video, that follow you, etc.
So talk me through sort of the pros and cons of organic versus paid for adverts. So I appreciate, organic takes a long time, I guess, to grow and kind of get up to a certain level where you've kind of got an audience around you, sort of thing, where I guess kind of the paid stuff is kind of like a shortcut to that. So where should agents be focusing their time? Should it be purely organic and then later paid for stuff, or should it be paid to start off with till they've got the audience? And then how should you sort of structure that sort of that balance, I suppose?
I would say it's to do with content initially, right? So the thing is with paid is that you're still paying to put content in front of people. If you go straight to paying for ads to speed up the process and get leads, it's going to look very spammy. You don't know if your content is engaging or not. So I'll give you an example of an agent I worked with, as I still work with now, but we did some work, a specific campaign on one of their listings. It was a multi-million-pound property, and they wanted to get leads from social media as well as Rightmove. So I made them go out and get multiple pieces of content. So they got a full video tour, which we put on social media. They got a quick property reel walkthrough that was sped up. We put that on social media. They did a coming soon video outside the property telling them about it. And then they also had the images that they put on Rightmove. And over the course of 2 weeks, we put all these pieces of content out there on their organic social media, their normal profiles for free. We put them all in local Facebook groups, and we monitored what gets the most views, what maintains the most attention, what gets the most comments. Did any of them, any people reaching out organically? And then we're able to rank them. So this piece of content here is going to get the most inquiries organically, or going to get the most views in terms of ads. That's going to get us the lowest cost to reach people, probably the lowest cost per qualified lead as well. So what we did there was we took the best performing piece of content organically, we put £200 behind it with a lead form targeted on Facebook, and we got some good leads off the back of it. And then once we'd also got that audience off with the paid ads too, it expanded the audience and the reach. We then took the second highest performing piece of content. We don't want to retarget people with the same piece of content they've already seen. So we retargeted the people that watched the initial ad with the best performing piece of content with the second best performing piece of content. So we could get really warm leads, but we could still engage them very quickly. So in that, and they did get a few viewings on that property at, it was about £1.5 million, which isn't the cheapest property in the world. And there may not be too many buyers out there for it in their area. So they've added value to their vendor and their business by being able to do that. But we wouldn't have been able to do that with the paid ads if we didn't have the piece of content first and be able to monitor organically what's going to convert the best.
So effectively what you're doing there is sort of backing the winners, I suppose. You're kind of going, right, here's our 5 bits of content, whatever it may be. This one has performed the best. Great, let's inject some steroids into that piece. So it kind of goes out to a wider audience because it's proven already to kind of be a winner, if that makes sense.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. That's why organic content is the most important thing. And it's the same with the evaluation stuff. If you've got a bunch of videos to do with getting an evaluation or selling your home, take the best performing piece of content and put that out there, and then use that as your course of action for your online valuation or whatever it is you want to do with it.
Yeah, I'll tell a little story about our Facebook ads. So we ran 2 ads a little while ago. One was a picture of me holding my book, and one was just the book, the book one. So people do not want to see a picture of me holding a book, apparently. I didn't take it to heart too much, I promise. Right, so talk to me through about, because you talk about being the most seen agent in your local marketplace. So how can an agent be recognizable and always be made into local celebrity via their social media?
Yeah, I would say in terms of that, it's about filming videos consistently around your market and around the properties that you're listing and selling. You want to be doing that as consistently as possible. Getting them into local Facebook groups is how you expand the local reach too. And then I would say running some paid campaigns, maybe putting a few quid behind these videos and boosting the posts just to a cold audience in general with a small Facebook ad campaign. And then, of course, you can run a retargeting campaign to everybody that's viewed you throughout these pieces of content. So you're taking advantage of cold advertising with paid Facebook ads. You're taking advantage of course, your profiles online, local Facebook groups, and you're bringing it all together and making sure your message stays in front of people. That is how I'd be the most seen agent online.
And how can you look at that and go, you want to be seen, also you want to be known in the local area to all the people that go with, sort of thing. But how do you kind of make sure that the marketplace that you want are kind of the right people? Because I know that social media has kind of changed over the last couple of years or so, and obviously you'll be the expert on this. So I know when TikTok came along, it went from sort of your followers making a big deal. So you'd have 10,000 followers and they would see all your content, and that's kind of the way it was. And then TikTok came along and said, actually, if you're just interested in a state agency, we'll show it to the entire world. And anyone who's kind of waved their flag saying yes, we like a state agency, we'll show them your video and see how we get on, sort of thing. So how do you sort of balance that? Because obviously you're trying to produce content for the hyper local area, but you've got an algorithm that kind of wants to show it out to a wide area, I'd imagine, if it's good.
Yeah, potentially. So with that, there's not always that much you can do about it. If you're onto a winning piece of content and you get lots and lots of views, you're going to get them anyway. I mean, I wouldn't say to limit that. But overall, if you're a local business and a local estate agency, typically what I've seen is that content kind of expires much beyond local people overall and people in the surrounding areas. And this is the thing with online marketing in particular. Probably why a lot of people listening are probably seeing a lot of business to business services or courses and that kind of thing for entrepreneurship and business in their feed as well. I'm sure you've probably seen a lot of that with Facebook ads. I get it all the time. And that's because the way it works to build a funnel, I guess, online is that, sure, you've got your very niche people that you want to reach. So for estate agents, that's going to be your vendors, typically, and your landlords. That's very few people in your market. And this is the thing. Then, of course, you could expand that by trying to find your sellers and your buyers and trying to reach buyers of properties. Landlords are going to be buyers, vendors are also going to be buyers too. Then I guess you could go even further and make more general content to do with local people in general that care about properties in the area, local homeowners, etc. So if you did a piece of content focused just on vendors, you're not going to get many views at all. And this is the problem with that with estate agents, is that like people say produce market updates and viable selling tips, etc., they never get that many views because it's not that engaging to a lot of people. So it's not going to get that attention and the algorithm's not going to push it. So, and this is why I like trending property reels the most, right? Is because, yes, everybody can engage with that locally. It's a nosy into another property in the area. So everybody, any other homeowners are going to like a video tour of a property locally. So you've got the kind of broad local audience. It's interesting for buyers if you niche down a little bit more because it's a potential property they could buy. And then it's also niche down for vendors because, well, this is how you're showing off how you're marketing and selling somebody else's house. So it's social proof for them too. So this is the content you've got to be looking for really, is that what pieces of content are applicable for vendors, but are also going to get seen by those vendors because they're applicable for everybody else locally.
So where agents want to kind of have a call to action or some sort of, do you want a valuation, yes or no sort of thing, is asking for a market appraisal on your social media, is that too high of a bar of entry? Is it a case that you almost want sort of like a micro sign of interest before you sort of ask that? So if someone went on their story, for example, and said, want a market appraisal, click this link sort of thing, is that a too high a bar for people to actually go, yeah, actually, that's quite a big commitment for me to click on this sort of link? But if you had some sort of lead magnet that was like, get a free pamphlet about how to sell houses or whatever it may be, they would go for that. So where's the bar set with regard to sort of how high a level you can go that people are actually going to interact with it?
I think it's all good stuff as long as you build the following. So as long as you build the following and you've got your base content that you do consistently, which might be highlighting local parts of the area with Reels videos, might be trending property tours, might be the carousels of properties you've sold. As long as that's your base stuff and you do it consistently, you're going to build a following. They're going to continually engage with you because it's engaging content for them as well as also what's proven to be engaging for the algorithm too. Then off the back of it, what you can do is more call to action based stuff. I'd say, if you've got a following of, I know agents have got a following of like 4,000 or 5,000 people locally, and they're in a small area. So they've got a lot, like, I know agents have got like 20% of their town following them, right? And it's like, every time you post something call to action based, you're going to get something out of it. Every time you post something, even just a property video, you're going to get viewings out of it. So I would say I wouldn't overthink that too much. If you want to ask for a valuation because you've got an engaged audience anyway, then ask for the valuation. You're probably going to get some off the back of it. If you say we just sold this property, find out how, get in touch to see how we can help you sell your property, you're probably going to get something off the back of it. You just have to have the audience first and not be too spammy with it.
And what about if you haven't got an engaged audience? Let's say, for example, you put a poll up and say, right, which, would you move yes or no, and like no one votes for it? Or you say, which kitchen do you prefer, the red one or the blue one, and no one votes for it. Sort of. Is there a way you can kind of like jimmy up your audience to actually kind of do that stuff, or is it kind of like you just need to find more people who are a bit more engaging, or you need to produce better content?
It could be a mix of all those things. I would say that it's probably that you've not got great content to engage your audience. I'd say you may not have a big enough audience either locally. You don't need a massive audience, but you need still a sizable one. And I know agents that have gone self-employed 12 months ago, and within 6 months they had a following of 800 people organically off the back of producing great content and telling people what they're doing with this property, how they sold this property, etc., and what the local market's doing, put it in Facebook groups. And they've had nearly 1,000 people follow them a year later, and every time they put something out there, they get a viewing or valuation inquiry off of every single video that they do. And that's not a massive audience, 1,000 people. It's not like there's years and years of brand equity built up in that market. It's only 12 months and only 1,000 people. So I would say if you're struggling with that, I'd say film a quick video telling people that you're going to be putting your properties on social media before they go on Rightmove. I'd say maybe do walking down the street, almost like your videos, Chris, walking down the street and telling people that you're going to be doing this. And of course, put some Facebook spend behind it. If you want to put it on £10 a day for 30 days, chances are you'll start to see followers. I've seen followers come through at 50p a follower, which isn't very many. You can get 600 followers straight away within a month by doing that. And as long as you back up that promise with property videos, putting them there before they go on Rightmove, people have a reason to follow you. They've got a reason to look out for your content. And if they're constantly looking out for your content, whether it's property content or something else, they're still going to see it and they're still going to engage with it. So that is probably how I would go about solving that problem very quickly.
I love that. Love that. So how can agents use social proof? Because I'd imagine what isn't very attractive on social media is agents bragging, saying, yeah, we've sold another house and we're great and we're amazing. So how can agents kind of have social proof they're doing a good job and they've got happy customers, but without kind of being that sort of a bit sleazy, aren't I great sort of conversation?
So I would say with those ones, tell the story of the sale. Like everybody sees it, and there's a lot of people out there say, don't just post your listings, don't just post your sold properties. I would go against that and say do that anyway, but it's the way you do it. It has to be engaging and it has to be what works well on social media. So with the property you've sold, tell the story of the sale. What challenges you overcome, like I said previously, was it on the market with another agent, etc. Also, if you can, and also this is the thing with reviews as well, and that kind of social proof. Every agent has that typical Canva template where they stick the review on it and put it out on their social media. That doesn't really get that much of an effect anyway. If people are going to engage with reviews, they go on Google, and it's part of that process is choosing an estate agent. I'm not saying don't put them on your social media, but if it's what works the best on social media is what's going to be relatable. So if you can take a picture with a buyer or a vendor on completion day, handing the keys over or in front of the property, that works so well, it's insane, because everybody can see that this is a local person just like them, a local homeowner, a local buyer, a local seller that you've helped with a big thing in their life. And nobody dislikes that. You're not going to get anybody talking about property prices and saying, it's all a scam or etc. and estate agents are bringing up the property values and that kind of thing. And you're not going to get any of that kind of stuff. But you're going to get a whole lot of engagement and probably a whole lot of inquiries too. So tell the story of the sale and try and take pictures with your customers on completion day and get it in as many places as possible.
So some of the conversations I have with agents who are just launching is they say I've got nothing to talk about. So you talked about then about completions and sales and good news stories sort of thing. Tell me right the way back to the beginning. If you were launching your own estate agency business today and you looked at your diary and you're like, it's completely blank. You looked at your phone, it wasn't ringing sort of thing. Where would you start with your sort of your content journey?
I would probably at that point highlight some of the hidden gems in the area with reels. Like with that kind of content there, I know people talk about local content and going down to like the local butchers or whoever and doing an interview with the business owner. Unless you're in a very small village, I'm telling you now, absolutely nobody cares about that kind of stuff. It's long form, it doesn't maintain people's attention. It's two people that you don't know just talking about whatever, right? If you're going to highlight local areas, I'd take nice reels videos, like in Sheffield, right? Like the view out my window is quite a nice view. There's a nice sunset over there. If you know good spots like that and it really sell the area, take a quick few second like reel of it and take maybe in that area, there's maybe some cafes that you like. Take a quick short snippet of that and add it all together in a reels video and talk about this area. Simply as to why they would, in the caption, I'd put, why would you move to this area? Or here's 3 reasons you should move to this part of the city, right? That kind of stuff shows you promoting the area. It's good social proof for you. It's very relatable. Lots of people are going to like it as well. And if it's in that Reels format, people are going to watch the whole video because it's only 10 to 20 seconds long. It's very easy to get the watch time and bump it up in the algorithm too for more local people. I would do that. I'd also probably count down the top 10 most expensive streets if that's the type of properties that you wanted to sell as well. Because this is relatable, but this is the thing, it's just how you film that piece of content, right? Because local highlights still work very well, just not sitting down for 5 minutes in the local whatever, talking about how long you've been here, right? The property prices still works, just not in the typical boring statistical fashion that everybody's used to. So I'd say do those things, but just make sure you're doing it in terms of where content is at today.
Yeah, I think you got hit the nail on the head there. I think the thing that I always think about is kind of why should anyone care about this? What's in it for them sort of thing? Is it a funny
Exactly.
video? Is it an information video? Is it X Y Z happen? Is it informative? Why should they bother watching it sort of thing? You're absolutely right. If it was someone you interviewing someone they don't care about, it's like, well, there's about a million different other videos that are far more lively than this I can watch sort of thing. So I think that I know Chris Watkins talks about this quite a lot. Estate agent, property being the second most popular topic to talk about in the UK, sort of thing after the weather. I think sort of agents underestimate how much they've got to talk about when literally they're from a cold start because they're almost the knowledge keepers and the gatekeepers to so much information about buying, selling properties, what to do, what not to do, what on earth POA means. There's a million things to talk about in the estate agency world that people are like, actually, that's quite interesting. And you're kind of giving that free value. It doesn't necessarily need to be sort of Rightmove 2.0 if I've listed and I've sold lots of properties. It's just
Yeah, of
kind of
course.
giving that value out to people. So talk to me about, because obviously lots of agents rely on Rightmove and Zoopla as their main lead source. So I appreciate a lot of eggs in one basket on that sort of thing. So how can they sort of transition to generating their own leads for their business rather than sort of relying on Rightmove and Zoopla to kind of show off their properties?
I do social media because all those people on Rightmove and Zoopla you can reach on social media as well. They're on both platforms. So I say that, and the reason that it's not that I don't like them. It's not that I wouldn't use them if I was on a estate agent because I would. It's more the fact that it's a third party. And when I see agents pushing from their audience on social media or in the shop window, we're on Rightmove, they're pushing all that potential traffic to them and their brand, and those conversations that they could have with potential vendors themselves to a big third party that doesn't need your kind of donation in terms of attention to it, because it's got everybody's attention anyway. So the reason why, so for me, social media is so important is because it gets the emphasis back on your brand. It's like a free middle ground and one big free for all with everybody you want to reach there. So I would go about building your own brand on there. Again, followers see properties before they go on Rightmove is a big factor in that. And then of course, yeah, again, the importance of it is just, I think, owning your brand in your business and being in full control of that. Because if Rightmove decided to up their fees to a level that isn't sustainable anymore, which they may well do, or they could have done if they were taken over by the company that owns all the Australian stuff. That's how they run it over there. Like $600, $700, sometimes $1,000 Australian per listing. Could you imagine if it was like 400 quid per listing you put on Rightmove? Agents with 30, 40 listings, you might be paying $3,000 a month right now, but that's going to quickly go above 10. And that's not going to be sustainable for anybody. So I think the importance of this stuff is kind of protection almost against bigger companies, and being able to build your own brand in your own part of the internet where you're free to generate your leads however you want and get them into your database.
Yeah, one of the few things that are consistent in the property world is Rightmove do increase their fees on a very regular basis. So I actually had a phone call with a client literally just before we started recording today, actually, and he said to me, "Chris, what do you think about me ditching Rightmove?" And I was like, okay. And I was like, okay, so context, he's been up and running now for about 9 months or so. Has had a really good start. He's really busy, lots of listings, lots of sales, doing really, really well in the grand scheme of things. I said to him, look, I just don't think you're ready for it. If you put a lot of work into your social media over the next couple of years or so, absolutely, you've got that, chance to do it. But I would say in the short term, you can put that sort of weight behind your social media, to kind of generate enough leads, enough interest where you can actually get rid of it. And you always haven't put enough kind of trust and goodwill into your social media to kind of just rely on it purely. So, I'd imagine that people need to invest, if they were thinking of ditching Rightmove, I would guess they'd have to invest quite heavily in the social media stuff to get to a stage where you're like, actually, that's now my number one lead source, and that's the one I want to keep hold of.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I saw a poll yesterday from Simon Gates. It's still going around on LinkedIn and Facebook now. You may have seen it, to do with if you could only choose one of the two, which one would it be? Cancel Rightmove or delete all social media for your agency forever? And overall, I think it's about 60% of people said they'd cancel Rightmove over social media. Because it's the thing, again, you don't want to be reliant on a third party, and you can use social media to reach all those people on Rightmove anyway. I say all the time, social media platforms and property portals are very much the same thing. It's just the intent that people have when they go on both things. Plus, there's more intent to look at properties on Rightmove than there is on social media. But you can still reach all those people with property content and estate agency content on social media too.
So talk me through about where you see estate agency content marketing going in years to come. Because of the AI, I don't like talking about AI because everyone's like, AI is amazing. But AI is coming and it is amazing. And it is going to produce so much content, it is terrifying. So it's going to be producing pictures that you can't tell whether they're real or fake. It's going to take video content you can't tell is real or fake. Is that going to make an agent's job easier or harder? They're going to like clone themselves via, whatever system online and just kind of, type to talk and they'll just go for it. How do you see that evolving in years to come?
I think first and foremost, if you can make your own authentic content, you can have the skill of content creation for your own business. Like there's all kind of things cropping up over the last kind of 10 years. Cryptocurrency is a big one, and I'm sure that will be even more viable than it is today in the future. AI is, kind of where I'd say Bitcoin was in 2017 when a lot of people first heard about it. And now it's going to be, you could have made a lot of money in there, and you could do in future. So AI, I'd say, is obviously a big thing to be investing in. But more than anything, what I would still put the time into is being able to create quality content and understanding what makes people react to things on social media, because that's going to be here for just as long as anything AI and anything else is going to be. I say use AI to make things easier, but don't use it to replace your voice and your content on social media. Like, for example, cold calling. I had a call with somebody yesterday, a company in Dubai. Now, they got my attention because they've created an AI voice bot. But unlike other AI voice bots where you can kind of tell it's AI, or you can very much tell that it's AI, you wouldn't be able to notice. Their technology is incredible. Now, they're going to cost you 20 grand per head to make one of those bots, which is probably out of the budget of a lot of small to medium-sized businesses. But 5 years from now, or even 2 or 3 years from now, that piece of technology is going to cost £1,000. right? So I would say use AI for stuff like that because you can then that you can call your whole database in 5 minutes with that. They'd never know it's AI, and you've saved a whole lot of time. You've got valuations off the back of it there. But what I wouldn't use AI to do is replace yourself and your voice on social media because people will like authenticity more. Like on LinkedIn, you can tell when something's written by ChatGPT, and it never gets as much engagement as like I've never used AI to write my post. It just doesn't quite have the same kick as when I write it myself and get the same engagement. People can tell if it's you, and maybe at some point they won't be able to. But I'd say having your authentic voice is always going to be better, and understanding how to create content around that specifically is always going to be the number one skill for your business.
Yeah, it's funny you say about the voice cloning thing. So I actually tried this out a little while ago, and uploaded I think about 20 clips of my voice, so like a minute long, something like that, and then sent my partner a voice note, and she couldn't tell the difference. So it's getting pretty good in that grand scheme of things. So it's definitely come along without a doubt. So talk me through. So future of social media marketing, where should people be investing their time today to make sure they're getting as much return on their investment for their time spent on social media tomorrow?
I'd say in content creation, understanding what but going back to Instagram videos and social media, there's a lot of different things. It's not just about being good behind the camera or understanding like what pieces of content with your properties are going to get the most views, etc., and then the most exposure on your brand and on your listings or your success. You've got the hook. How you start the video is what's going to get people's attention the most. How do you structure that video to maintain that attention and get somebody to take an action off the back of it? And specifically staying ahead of trends on social media and the algorithms, etc., and what's being pushed in consumer behavior. I think that is the biggest thing on social media, away from paid ads, away from anything else. Understanding those things on social media is always going to mean you can build an audience and grow your business, whatever business you're in.
James, you've been an absolutely brilliant guest. Thank you so much. And thank you for going easy on me when you reviewed my social media online a little while ago. You were very kind. So thank you very much. And thanks for
No
being a
worries
great
at
guest
all.
today.